It finally happened. Thor Ragnarok flew into theaters November 3rd, and the big buzz opening weekend was, this is the best reviewed Marvel movie of all time. So, did it live up to the hype? Why all the anti-colonial messages? And did Disney slip in any Christian values you can take away from it? All that and more coming up. So, Thor Ragnarok was directed by Taika Waititi. I know I probably butchered that name, but this guy has done some quality work, including Hunt for the Wild People and What We Do in the Shadows. Currently, Thor Ragnarok has grossed over $450 million at the box office, and that number will continue to climb each and every day. So I can jump into, did it live up to the hype? I'm going to use my viewer review first. I'm going to give Thor Ragnarok a 4 out of 5 if you're just a moviegoer to sit in the seat and be entertained. Now, currently after opening weekend, Thor Ragnarok is no longer the highest rated movie by critics on Rotten Tomatoes for a Marvel movie. That title goes back to Iron Man 1, which I completely agree is a much, much better film. But the reason Thor Ragnarok still lands second for Marvel reviewed movies is because it is fun, it is fast-paced, it is funny from start to finish, and it's a visual spectacle. It's really just incredibly fast-paced with a bunch of setup jokes. There's probably more setup jokes in the movie than Anthony Hopkins even has lines. However, this movie is not perfect because it has those things. No, there's some things this movie also lacks. One reason it's not going to be a 5 out of 5 or whatever is because there's absolutely no romance and there's no emotion to this movie. It happens so fast, it just passes away, and you often get saturated with special effects and jokes. And personally, I think Iron Man 1 and Ant-Man are more funny films, but that's just me. My critic review for this movie, I'm gonna give it 3 out of 5. I know, what? Why? This movie's so good. Well, there's a few things that I think this movie could have done better and that it missed the mark on. First off, this movie had one goal in mind. It was to be fast-paced and along the way be funny with special effects. It did this, but because it was so fast-paced, it was one speed the whole movie, and you as an audience member never have time to breathe and process anything going on screen with any of the characters. The movie gets very saturated with setup jokes, setup jokes, setup jokes, setup joke, and it gets very punchy and campy because of that. You'll literally find yourself saying, oh, I like that guy, he was funny, and you'll know nothing about him, nor his name, where he's from, what he's about, nothing. You'll just be like, oh yeah, that was a funny character, and that's it. Literally in this movie, there are major players that die off, but you never have time to process the weight of that for each of the characters, to have any type of emotional connection, or have even a tear roll down your face. Similarly, main players get tortured and permanently maimed, but because it's so fast-paced and they're throwing in jokes, even in the fight scenes, you don't care. Because of this, there's no stakes. You're never really worried about anyone dying because it's like, oh, I'm going to be on to the next joke in about 5 seconds anyway, and you're like, oh, that happened, and now we're on to the next thing. Now, everyone's favorite villain in superhero universes are like the Joker and Loki. Everyone loves Loki. Everyone loves that character. The complex relationship between Thor and Loki is fantastic to watch. And in the third movie, we finally get them both together. Unfortunately, because they're going so fast, you never get any of the emotional weight going on, and they throw in all these new characters that are all vying for screen time, so anytime they do get to screen, it's so fast and campy that you don't get to appreciate anything that's been going on in the past 2 movies. Now, I'm not saying the movie's bad. It's very fun to watch, and everyone should go see it in theaters because it's fun. You want to be there with a bunch of audience. Y'all can all interact with the jokes and the excitement as it's going on. The movie's good, but it could have been better. Now, there's a few things politically with this movie I didn't quite agree with. Hela in this movie, I think they were trying to come across as an authoritarian dictator, Trumpian kind of ruler, where she comes back and she's like, no, I'm going to make Asgard great again and go back to our roots, go back to what made us great. And she's very much that kind of beat you down person throughout the entire movie, but specifically when it comes to the country itself. And in one specific scene, Helena literally destroys a mural of the history of Asgard, where it shows peace and prosperity for all the kingdoms, which they are being lived in, but she tears it down to show that no, we actually were a conquering, destroying civilization that murdered all these things, and our civilization is built on the backs of soldiers and the people that we have murdered in the past, and we're actually a very evil society and evil culture that we need to go back to our old roots. So much so that Thor even accepts this and is willing to destroy his entire country to take down Hela. Now, a common theme in the movie was Asgard is not a place, it's a people. The people are what make it great. No. You can have a great person living in Nazi Germany, and you can have a garbage human being who's also an Antifa member living in the United States. It happens. But those individuals do not define the society. A society and a civilization are defined by the principles and values that it perpetuates. I had one of these debates with a friend in LA, and he was saying that, oh, America's got so many problems, America's kind of a bad place. You know, I went to Cuba recently, and Cuba is beautiful, it's amazing. Like, that is actually a great culture. That's a great place. And I was like, yeah, that's crazy. I just never heard anyone in the United States swimming through shark-infested waters and abandoning their family to get to Cuba because it's so great. And immediately the conversation ends because you're right. In reality, that is a total lie. Yes, every civilization has had blemishes. No history is perfect. But what are the values and principles of this culture that people are flocking to? Where people can prosper, where you can be yourself and have these freedoms to live the life that you want to live. So yes, what made Asgard great may not be this specific location, but the people there are not just good people because they're good people. They're good people because they're raised in a society and a culture that helps them be that way, that gives them the opportunity and has standards that they live by. Now when it comes to faith, Disney did not include any overt Christian themes. Yes, Thor is a great figure. He's an honorable man that helps sacrifice himself to save people around him that are undeserving. It's a great moral lesson. It's a great person to look up to, but there were no overt Christian messages necessarily. There is an interesting metaphor when you look at the Old Testament, though, when it comes to the Asgardian people. The Asgardian people become a people wandering the wilderness without a home, wandering in the space, trying to find a new land. Similar to the Old Testament Israelites who are pushed out through Babylonian rule, but nothing overt in the film, but there's some interesting parallels when you think about it from that perspective. So Thor will be returning in Avengers Infinity War Part 1 this spring. Be interesting to see how Thor handles that new villain. And when that comes out, I'll be sure to let you guys know what I think about it. I hope you guys enjoyed the film and this review. I'm Ben Davies. This is the Real Rebel Review. Alright, if you like this video and others like it, please consider becoming a premium member to the Rebel. That way you'll have first access to Pure Hollywood and the entire Rebel lineup.